Hello today. Today you are someone, I'm someone else, and today I'm gonna explain to you what what dyspraxia is. So dyspraxia is a condition that I was diagnosed when I was very little with. Dyspraxia. There are many different forms of dyspraxia. There's mainly three different forms. There's three different stages of dyspraxia. So the first stage would be like planning. I forgot the other two stages. It doesn't matter, right? You only really need two stages to be really terrible at to be a dyspraxic. So there's like a planning stage, a motion stage, and like a assessment stage or something like that of dyspraxia. But we're not going to talk about that because I don't know how to diagnose people. We're just going to talk about the main dyspraxic, main three different types of dyspraxic. So I have two types of major dyspraxic, symptoms. I would say I'm a fine. I don't know if it's fine motor or gross motor. I forgot which one I have, and I'm verbal dyspraxic, meaning that I don't speak the most clear. So I definitely have verbal dyspraxia. It took me 8 years of speech therapy to get to where I'm at, to where I'm able to speak. So on these YouTube videos, just the way I was able to speak when I was little, I couldn't speak at all. I was verbal, I guess I could say, but I wasn't saying anything that people would understand. I would be considered nonverbal dyspraxic, or I guess verbal dyspraxia, which is what that's called. I was a slow talker, and that's why school was so hard for me. I wasn't able to express myself, trying to get my words out to the teachers. So that's why I was a verbal dyspraxic. I wasn't able to speak very well. I didn't know what it was called back then, but I looked it up, and it turns out I have every single symptom that a verbal dyspraxic would have. And it's on the same side of the brain as the rest of the dyspraxics, the motor dyspraxic and the fine motor dyspraxic. I think that would be fine motor because I couldn't spell very well. So I think that's fine motor. Gross motor would be more like driving a car, which I didn't struggle with as much as, signing my name on a piece of paper or looking at a book. Like those are more fine motor. I guess fine motor would be more like simple little tasks, and gross motor would be more like how do I control my whole body. I struggled with that also at the beginning, but I would say I am more severe with the fine motor stuff. When I type on my phone, I misclick all the time. Uh, you know, and so it does affect you. Brushing your teeth, it does have an effect on you. It's like these little things that add up that irritate your life. It's not really something that really will, you know, change your life. You could get bullied with it, but it's not like something that, you could say. And a lot of people are like depressed or have high anxiety with it, which I don't understand. What is there to be anxious about? What you have it, you're born with it. That's the way life, right? I always got through life that way. Many people didn't, and a lot of people like me struggled because they didn't go through life very optimistically. I knew whatever I was going to do. I thought, okay, high school is going to be hard, whatever. I'm going to have to do it anyway because the society wants me to do it, right? So that's sort of the way I thought. I didn't really care if I didn't go through it, and it was because I was born with this thing, right? Which I don't think dyspraxics, there's probably a higher percentage that fail high school, but let's just say hypothetically they pass at the same rates as regular people. I don't think my dyspraxia is going to stop me from doing whatever I want. And I feel so bad for people who think that it's going to stop them. I've been able to achieve, I've been able to drive a car. I mean, there are some people with dyspraxia that, for some reason, have a harder time driving a car. I'm sure they are. Again, they're more severe than I am, in their dyspraxia and their gross motor planning, which would probably be planning your whole body instead of your hands. My hands, right? They don't function. They're pieces of garbage. I might as well replace my fingers with the sticks from the outside world. That's how terrible my hands are. But they function. They get the job done, even at the warehouse. And you gotta realize, like, that's the reason why I didn't want to get a trade job. I went to dental assisting school, like I said in one of my earlier videos. And again, my fine motor planning skills with my hands sucked. I knew the material, I knew where I needed to put my hands, but I couldn't, for some reason, I couldn't plan it out, or I couldn't like, I don't know. My hands were not always in the right place at the right time on the patient's mouth, and so I was always afraid I was going to mess something up. But luckily, I didn't when I was working as a dental assistant. And so, that's why I haven't done anything is because of my hands, which is kind of concerning. But whatever, it shouldn't hold me back too much. Again, you can always learn more. You will never be at the top of what a normal person is, but you can always improve on the scenario you're at, right? At some point, you could be indistinguishable from a normal person, but it's pretty obvious that sometimes your symptoms will go and make it worse. But again, you're never going to be perfect, and I don't expect this world to be perfect. This world is an unperfect place. I hate these people who want the world to be a perfect place. They want to abolish hierarchy. They want to get rid of the institutions that make us human. Right? I'm against that. That's what makes me more, I guess, conservative leaning. Not like politically, but just in life in general. I listen to much older people that understand how the real world works. That's reality. You can't just erase reality and expect reality to, bend to your whim. You know what I mean? That's also a problem I have with American girls, but that's a whole nother issue. That's why I never dated anyone my entire life. Because, to be honest, girls today, they're so misled. They don't understand that hierarchies are good. There's a reason why people like to be submissive and breedable. Okay, we're not going to go into that. That's a whole nother topic. Oh, by the way, I did a little study. So I ate the steak to test out if I was allergic to steak, right? So I was getting allergic to meat, and I figured out something. I may not be allergic to meat. I'm actually allergic to spicy or hot food with high lipid counts, because every chicken and every chicken and steak that I've been eating has a little bit of spice in there and a high lipid count, and it's also been warmed up. And so food that's warmed up with a high lipid count, and it's called non-allergenic rhamnosus or something. I couldn't pronounce it. It's in Latin. I don't speak Latin. What do I know? But anyway, English adapted that word into the language. But I don't know. Non-allergenic rhamnosus or whatever. It's rhamnosus or whatever. Right? I completely butchered the ending of that word, and I don't really care. To be honest, I call it a non-allergenic condition, syndrome. It's a syndrome. So basically, it's a nerve that wants to attack that high lipid count food. That seems to be what it is, from what I can tell based on my research, because I don't have the full symptoms of an allergic reaction. It seems to be more like if it was an allergic reaction, it would be more severe. But again, it could just show up as a common cold. So it could very well be an allergic reaction, but this thing I have, it has a little bit less symptoms. The other syndrome, the syndrome and the allergic reaction one, they're very similar in the way they work, but I think the allergic reaction one's a little bit more severe. But again, they could have the same amount of symptoms. The only way you could tell is if you could test it for an allergy. That costs money, and I don't feel like spending money on figuring out if I'm allergic to something. So I'm just going to assume that I should try my best to avoid high lipid foods, which I should have been doing anyway, because my doctor said I had GERD over a year ago, and I haven't been doing that. And now my life sucks, because now I realize, now I have this non-allergenic rhamnosus, or I have allergenic rhamnosus. Either one's terrible, because they're named the same thing. This one's allergies, one's non-allergic. But whatever. They have the same symptoms, so there's no way to tell unless you get the allergy test. But it turns out I can't really eat steak that well. I mean, I can. My body has an easier time processing steak, surprisingly, than fried chicken. And the reason why fried chicken would be harder to process is because there's a lot of trans fat in there that's being cooked in. And so my body, for some reason, can't break down sugars between lipids properly, I'm guessing. And so it comes out with the mucus in the nose. I don't know. I mean, that's based on my scientific studies as some dyspraxic guy or whatever. I wouldn't call myself dyspraxic. I think that's kind of insulting to people who have really severe dyspraxia. But, this video was basically me talking about why do I feel like I work harder than other people? And the main reason is, especially with my hands or my speaking, and it takes a lot of energy when I couldn't do it as well. It took a lot more energy out of me to do all those things, to express myself properly. And that was the reason why I was really shy in middle school, and then I became like really aggressive in high school. I started bullying people started bullying people. People bullied me back, and I didn't care, right? I don't care what people think of me. I'll wear whatever. I'll do whatever. I don't care what people think of me. I obviously wanted the best grade, so I dressed up in the best shop clothes I could. For my dental assisting shop and my academic shop, I had to wear certain clothes too, in high school. But in my trade school, but I didn't really care what this other students think. I really only cared what the teachers did. I appealed to the teachers because I knew I needed to get out of high school as quickly as possible. I didn't want to repeat another year. But yeah, it's just like, that's the thing, right? Is you gotta survive, do what you can. And people with dyspraxia, they find a way. They might have a hard time struggling to find their words, or they may have a hard time with their hands. I mean, I couldn't even really speak, to be honest with you. I couldn't even speak. I had 8 years of speech. I had to reform my mouth to speak normal English. I had to reform my gross motor planning in order for me to tie my sneaker. It took me like 6 years, I think, to learn how to tie my sneaker. It was ridiculous. I think it was like fifth grade when I learned to tie my sneaker or something. So, I mean, don't let any of that deter you from the future. I mean, if you're a little kid and you're struggling, I don't want little kids to be watching this channel, but if you are a little kid, I want to say you will definitely make it in this world. Whether you're kind of a loser like me who just wants to work at a warehouse, or whether you're, a scientist, a rocket scientist. There are plenty of rocket scientists, I'm sure, that have dyspraxia. They probably suck at gross motor planning and not fine motor planning, because fine motor planning you have to write down the equations, but they could be really good at they might be terrible at where their body is placed in a sport arena. They might be excellent at the rocket ships and just doing the calculations in their head, like my grandfather when he invented the GPS. By the way, my grandfather invented GPS, but I'm not going to talk about that because that would probably be too personal. But he did develop the prototype to the GPS, the global positioning unit, the thing you see in your car when you drive. Yeah, he developed the positioning system, the satellites that went into space and all that. My great grandfather was a brilliant man. Anyway, that's besides the point. And there was many people who worked on it. You won't find his name on the internet. The only way you'll find his name is you go on a stupid client website, which I found it. But very very little evidence that he made the thing. But I have the patents, and he told me he made it. So what do I know? Maybe he did. Maybe he didn't. I don't know. I just don't know. Honestly, he could be lying because, again, he just worked for the U.S. government. So it was a U.S. government patent, really. It wasn't even a personal patent, but he did make money from the patent. So I don't really understand it personally. Anyway, that might be I don't know if he's dyspraxic or not. My great grandfather, who was alive, he's not alive anymore, but when he was alive, I don't know if he was, to be honest. But he could do math better than a calculator. I'm sure there's somebody who has dyspraxia who could do math better than a calculator, faster than a calculator, like my great grandfather. I'm 100% certain there is somebody like that. In fact, if that person did exist, it would probably be my great grandfather. Although I think he was better with better at his hands than I was. He had to learn how to use his hands. He was left-handed, and they forced him to right-handed. So I don't know, in a Catholic school. But anyway, you are someone, I am someone else. Just talking about weird scenarios with dyspraxia or whatever and medical conditions. Even though I know nothing about it, goodbye.